some watches aren't just watches. They're icons, symbols, cultural milestones. Every watch brand has that one model. The watch that defines their own legacy. The one you see on someone's wrist and you instantly know what it is. Think about the Rolex Submariner, the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, the Patek Philippe Nautilus. The list goes on and on. Today we're putting the 12 most iconic watches from 12 different brands head to head to answer one question. Which brand actually makes the most iconic watch of all time? They'll face off in a battle of design, prestige and value. 12 watches enter the ring, but only one leaves with the crown. Starting with our first matchup, which is Rolex versus Tag Heuer. The Rolex Submariner is arguably the most iconic watch in the world. First seen in 1953, first shown to the public in 1954. The Rolex Submariner is by far the most popular watch in the world, period. And it's up against the Tag Heuer, or the Heuer Monaco, which is an iconic watch for me because the K shape is so recognizable. A square watch that dates back at 1969 and arguably the first ever automatic chronograph. It's not the oldest watch on this list by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely a watch that stayed true to its core. This is a very interesting matchup between copied history with the Rolex Submariner, and we can argue to say that the Rolex Submariner copied the Blob F50 Phantoms, and something completely unique, something that never existed before, a square chronograph sports watch. I'm very interested to see which of the watches is gonna win, but I'm not gonna judge this alone. With me today is Stephen Davidson, the managing director of my company Pride and Pinion, and then Gavin Bigger, our client manager here at Pride and Pinion. Together we are gonna define the actual most iconic watch in the world. The Rolex Submariner up against the Tag Heuer Monaco. Well, it resembles the Tag Heuer Monaco. We don't have the Tag Heuer Monaco in stock. Which one is the most iconic based on design, prestige and value?
Yeah, I mean the Submariner for me is just, when you think of Rolex, that and Daytona is what comes to mind for me, and the Submariner is always just been hugely influential across the entire watch industry. There's been so many brands have tried to replicate the Submariner.
Absolutely agree. That's the first ever automatic chronograph though. Does that not beat that?
Yeah, is it not the first in a square case, if I'm
As
right?
well as that. We've seen rectangular shapes, but not like pure square as that.
I look at this, I think Steve McQueen, and I think back to my days working at Watch of Switzerland Goldsmiths, and this was the dog's balls.
More than happy to interfere, instead of sitting like a bag of sand.
I'm just waiting.
The only thing I would say is, in the last 4 or 5 years, the price of this has come very close to the price of this.
Yeah.
What are these retail now?
And they've spoiled
They're
Monaco
like
now because there's
7.5, 8 grand, I think.
yeah, there's 100 variations of Monaco.
This used to be triple the price of this. So in terms of value, this was, it was a big stretch to get to this. Now you're almost spending the same cash. So it's like, would I put that near 10 grand on this, or for 10 grand I could probably very close to picking this up? That's a hard choice.
They're two totally different things. The comparison is difficult. I agree. When I think about Tag Heuer, I think about the Monaco, and when I think about Rolex, I think about the Submariner. But it's a fairly easy answer for me, actually.
Right. Let's write our answers down. I think I have a clear view of what the winner is for me.
3, 2, 1, reveal.
It's all three probably, isn't it?
It's unanimous.
Yeah.
It is unanimous.
Yeah, it's unanimous. For me, the Submariner is definitely in this battle the more iconic and more important watch.
The Monaco's cooler, but the Sub's more important.
Yeah, significantly. For me, it was a clear winner. Rolex Submariner is going to the next round. Winner number 1.
What did you call the guy you met, the Tag Heuer?
Chief marketing guy, George.
Maybe just get him to build a smaller variation of this, and I would probably choose this.
There is a smaller version though, but it's quartz.
That's a girl's watch, bro.
Yeah, but mate, you've f***ing Garrett's wrist. You've got a Garrett's dick.
Tag Heuer misses out this time.
I feel like the winner of this is going to be something boring as hell, like a Submariner, which is still
Well,
You're a judge, dickhead. You realise you get to choose what the winner is. That's how this works.
There we have it. Rolex secures its place in the semi-finals. Before we get into round number 2, I want to introduce you guys to the new drop of IFL watches. IFL is finally back with a god tier Casio, the Casio, fully hand painted. This is the blue flamingo. And there's only going to be 200 of these produced. So please make sure you do not miss out. First link in the description. And now, round number 2. Moving on to matchup number 2. Omega versus Tissot. Omega, of course, with their most iconic watch, the Speedmaster, which made its debut in 1957. Rumors had it that NASA requested a watch from 15 different watch brands. Omega was one of the 4 that actually sent in a watch. Rolex also sent in a watch. And this is where we've seen a different type of matchup of Omega versus Rolex. Omega, of course, won that matchup with the Speedmaster and therefore became the first watch on the moon. A watch that was created for racing, measuring speed and distance, became the first choice for astronauts. And it's up against the Tissot PRX, which actually stands for precision, reliability, and the X, funny enough, stands for 10, meaning that it was waterproof to 10 meters. You know the PRX the way it is today, but the PRX actually has a really rich history, dating back at 1978. And the design we see here today is very similar to the design it was back in the day. However, it was named a wee bit different. It was called the Tissot C-Star. Very curious who's going to win this battle.
Me. That's not fair.
The Tissot PRX, when it was launched in 1978, it actually came out in quartz. And during the quartz crisis, of course, a lot of brands were struggling. AP launching the Royal Oak in 72, 6 years earlier prior to that. No one had tried to combine both the quartz and the steel integrated sports bracelet, bar Rolex prior to that with the 1530 and the 1630.
Did it go to the moon now?
I tried.
The PRX is an unbelievable watch, and it's a cool watch, and it's a very accessible watch, and it's so that a lot of people really enjoy it. But just you've thrown it in.
The fact that they relaunched, no, but we also need to look at design. We also need to look at value. The quartz variation for a really important watch in the history of our industry is only retailing like at 400 quid, which is 15 times less than the Speedmaster nearly.
Oh, so you're going to vote PRX in?
I'm not saying that, but like, okay, I'll write it up.
Let me put it to you this way. If it wasn't for this watch, I wouldn't be able to tell you the moon landing story. The moon landing story has been fed to me for 10 years.
Do you believe that we went to the moon now?
No, we didn't go, Gaff. I wasn't even born. I know. You're the only one who was born back then.
That's not true.
I'll write it up. I've done it.
But is that's it? How long? I heard a lot of reasons why PRX is class. I didn't hear anything about the Omega.
I said it. I went to the moon.
But that's it?
No, and just going to the moon. It's not just going to the moon. The watch was introduced as a racing watch later because of NASA. Omega beat Rolex on accuracy and of durability with the Speedmaster. So it's not just a watch that went to the moon.
3, 2, 1, reveal.
And unanimous probably, isn't it?
You're upside down, Nico.
Oh.
I thought we were doing the model, not the brand.
I think you get the gist.
Yeah, I think
it's all right.
Omega moves on to the next round. Our third matchup in round 1 is Cartier against Zenith. The Cartier Santos is arguably the first ever wristwatch made as a wristwatch. The name Santos comes back from Alberto Santos Dumont, which was a Brazilian aviator which Louis Cartier made the watch for. It was a watch that really changed the industry. It was made for him in 1905 and first made available to the public in 1911. It's a watch that completely changed the industry forever because wristwatches were actually considered feminine. But Cartier, with the Cartier Santos, made wristwatches masculine. But it's up against the Zenith El Primero. In the late 60s, there were several battles going on in our industry. First of all, the battle against the quartz movement, which wiped out nearly 60% of the Swiss watch industry, but also the battle for the first fully integrated automatic chronograph between several brands, including Breitling, Heuer, Hamilton, and Seiko across the water in Japan. The winner for me was Zenith when they launched the El Primero for the first time. Interesting matchup.
This is fairly easy for me, to be honest. Zenith is a brand that sort of passed me by a bit. They're cool for varying reasons, but if you took out El Primero from Zenith, I don't think it would be in my radar whatsoever. Like, that is probably one of the most iconic watches in the world, you know?
I find this a very difficult one because both watches, both brands has changed the industry forever. One with wristwatches altogether and really make it a masculine thing, and the other for pushing the boundaries of engineering with the integrated chronograph. I find it a very difficult one.
Well, I don't find it that difficult, to be fair. I think in terms of engineering, as you say, what Zenith has contributed towards the industry has been huge. The history of it is cool, but in terms of design, value, and like, especially I guess the Santos has become a lot more in demand in the last several years, we would say. Like, there's been a lot of celebrities seen wearing. I think there's a clear winner.
Is it unanimous?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. I thought that this was going to be a close matchup.
It's a clear winner.
Cartier Santos is going to the next round. That brings up the matchup number 4 in round 1. Jaeger-LeCoultre versus Ulysse Nardin. Jaeger-LeCoultre wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for the Reverso. First of all, the Reverso was introduced in 1931, and it was a groundbreaking design. It was introduced for polo players to make sure that the watch face, was protected in a very innovative manner. In a wee bit of a design of Cartier. But if there's one company that can take that design, it was Jaeger-LeCoultre. Actually, the truth be told, Mr. Jaeger and Mr. LeCoultre were working together for many years producing watches for Cartier, and they were two different companies. And we would argue to say that the Reverso is the reason why we saw a merger between Mr. Jaeger and Mr. LeCoultre. And it's up against the Ulysse Nardin Freak. 2 years ago, the Ulysse Nardin Freak won the GPHG Awards, which is the Oscars for watches, for most iconic watch in the world. The Freak is the youngest watch on this list, but we still call it iconic because it changed the industry forever. It was the first time ever that we've seen a movement that tells the time instead of a movement powering hands that tells the time, which is unique in every way, shape or form, but also the first time we see the usage of silicone in movements. The usage of silicone was groundbreaking in our industry, and we see many brands copying this exact format, like Patek Philippe with the advanced research. Ulysse Nardin Freak against the Reverso. Iconic in every way, shape or form, we can say both of them. What do you think, Gavin?
Again, it's kind of a little bit of an unfair matchup. This is one of the most iconic watches ever, just like some previous rounds.
This won the GPHG Awards 2 years ago for being the most iconic watch in the world.
Yeah, look, I feel like this is a bit more style over substance. You know, it's an iconic thing. It flips over. How much use is that? Very little use. But, you know, iconically in terms of its design, this is far, in terms of a technical achievement, it's head and shoulders above it. But again, it's a difficult comparison.
This is very new though. This is like very modern. Yeah. Obviously, this is going to be a great in the future.
I feel like if there are another 3 plonkers in 50 years doing the same thing again, and this comes up, this is going to be a far more iconic thing then, but now it's difficult to go up against.
But the first watch to ever use silicone in their escapements to improve the durability of the movement and basically reduce the interval of surfaces.
Something to become an icon takes time, you know, and as I said, I think that could and will become an icon, but right now it's a difficult matchup.
That's history, that's heritage, that's like, this doesn't have that. This is the better watch, but if you're asking me which is the more iconic.
Right, I have a feeling that this is another unanimous. What?
You spelled JLC wrong.
You're not going to tell me that that is a better watch than that.
No, but it's more iconic.
60k of that is better than 5k of that.
100%.
For value, more bang for your buck. 60k.
Yeah. Look at the technology in that.
No, but that's going wrong.
No.
I'm not touching that again.
I think we need another printout.
Jesus. Get the scissors out, Johnny.
Reverso moves on. Now on to matchup number 5 in round 1. Patek Philippe against Breitling. The Nautilus is arguably Gerald Genta's most famous design. The Nautilus was first introduced in 1976. It was of course very much inspired by the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. The Patek Philippe Nautilus is against the Breitling Navy Timer, which actually finds its origin from a different watch of Breitling. We're talking of course about the Chronomat. Willy Breitling, who took charge of Breitling in 1934, wanted to create a watch that you could make measurements with, mathematics with one turn of the bezel. In 1940, the Chronomat was born. The Navy Timer was the most popular watch under aviators because it was an analog computer in every way, shape or form. It was a real groundbreaking chronograph which first saw daylight 12 years after the Chronomat was launched. This will be a very interesting matchup. Well, we're definitely not going to have the same opinion on this.
My 10-year-old knows the answer to this question, by the way.
Yeah, I feel like this is a bit unfair. This isn't just more iconic than this. This is one of the most iconic watches in the world, period. This is the grail for most of the people in the game. People will see that from across the room and they know what that is.
People also see A Navitimer.
Yeah, and that look, Navitimer, I've seen Navitimer, I was just like, we say this all the time, but I see Navitimer and I think back to my childhood when I was aspiring to have nice watches, and John Travolta was the poster boy for Navitimer, him and his big jumbo jet flying in and out of places.
When I think about Breitling, I think about Navitimer. When I think about Patek, I think about Nautilus, and that's not right because Patek are far more than Nautilus. They are complicated precious metal wristwatches on leather, minute repeater, that sort of complication. That's what they're all about.
I'm very curious, very curious.
What? You're just trying to be a prick now.
Let me explain this, right? I don't even think that this should be a debate in any way, shape, or form. Bar 10 years ago, nobody bought a Nautilus. Yeah, well, people bought a Nautilus, but it is driven by hype on recent years. Look at the importance of the Navitimer specifically, functionality of the watch, design of the watch, and value of the watch. Bar the last 10 years that the Nautilus is going up to the moon, for me, it can't stand the heritage of the Navitimer in any way, shape, or form.
Cool story, bro.
Are you just trying to be controversial?
I am heartbroken that the Navitimer is not going through.
You're making this way tougher than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Well, the Patek Philippe Nautilus is going to the next round, which will bring us to our final matchup in round one, which is of course Audemars Piguet against Vacheron Constantin. Audemars Piguet with the Royal Oak arguably changed the Swiss watch industry forever. In an era that every brand was struggling selling watches because the quartz crisis, AP went absolute mad and everyone declared them crazy when they created a luxury sports watch that wasn't made in precious metal, and many have copied since. And the AP Royal Oak is up against the Vacheron Constantin overseas, or I would actually say the 222, because it was the 222 that actually was Vacheron's answer to the AP Royal Oak. The AP Royal Oak was introduced in 1972, Patek Philippe Nautilus was introduced in 1976, the 222 was introduced 1 year after to celebrate the 222nd birthday of the longest running watch company in the world. The 222 later was renamed and redesigned in 1996 to be called the Overseas with the Series 1, and the Series 2 was later introduced in 2004. Who is actually going to win this?
That's a proper matchup. These are the two closest watches to each other in all three categories that we've had, even though that's not precious metal. Those are two total icons. The brands are at a similar price point. I think the brands are at a similar level of heritage. I think, you know, the rounds we've had before, it's been a bit skewed. I'd say a lot of guys that are heavily into watches, if they own one of those, they own one of those in some variation. I think that's tight. I'm not actually even too sure which I'm going to choose at this point.
We talked about Patek. I said Patek's obviously part of the Holy Trinity. These are the other two that make up that Holy Trinity, and these are the poster childs for each of those brands.
The Royal Oak is the first integrated sports watch in steel. When the whole industry went left, AP went right. Personally, this is not a matchup because for me, I love Vacheron. I really like certain overseas. I think that this is the easiest matchup yet. Easier than the Omega Speedmaster against the PRX.
I mean, I think it's the closest matchup yet, but I still don't think it's like there's a clear winner for me.
Nah,
Really?
I don't think it's a close matchup.
Design, it's a no-brainer. Value, pretty close. Like, I'll give it that.
Yeah, they're both the same metal, yeah.
Let's write it down, ladies and gentlemen.
GLC?
What are you doing?
Oh, it's fashion.
What, are you choosing the overseas? Yeah. Are you out of your mind?
What the f*** is wrong with you?
This guy, bro.
It was just letters to you and you wrote the wrong letters.
Let's reshoot that.
You had wrong task. Are you just in need of attention or something? I like the overseas, but it has no history in any way, shape, or form, bar that it's relatively copied. So with AP securing its place in the semi-finals, we move on to an absolute bonkers matchup: Rolex versus Omega. This could have been the final. It's round two, just.
These are not luxury brands, they're premium brands, even though people like
So you're saying that Rolex is not a luxury brand?
No, not a company that built 1.3 million of anything is not a luxury brand. It's perceived as a luxury brand.
He's lost the plot, mate.
He's got a butler at home. You're speaking to the wrong person.
That is not luxury.
What?
That is not luxury. That is a premium brand. It is not a luxury brand.
You're holding up the wrong watch.
No, I don't. Neither of those are luxury brands, but this is the closest matchup.
You're going to get a lot of hate here.
I'm not going to
You're
get
gonna get a lot of
people in the
hate.
comments are going to be saying he's 100% right. They build 1.3 million watches a year. It's not luxury. It's marketed very cleverly. It's a premium brand. It's like a
what is more
BMW.
what iconic?
Is a BMW luxury?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's a premium brand. What is a Ferrari? Is it a luxury brand?
Hyper luxury.
Or did you just make up a category?
No. No, that's true.
Hyper luxury?
Is it true or not?
Well, no, a Ferrari has nothing to do with luxury because it always breaks down. And second of all, it's sports, so it's different. It's not luxury.
It's going to be close. I think this comes down to preference as opposed to because there's very little.
But what is more iconic in history? What has changed the industry?
This is the pinnacle of divers watches. Like, what was it? When was the Submariner? 52,
53, 54.
Right. Okay. So, like, there was nothing like it at the time, and now it's become the iconic seaman's divers watch. And then there's been so many
But
brands.
my point is, it's not used for that purpose, though. What it was created for, it's not used for.
No,
But it was.
It's created to be able to battle the harshest elements, and that's the key, and that's what it can do. It can't just. It's not just about going the depths of water. It's going up mountains or whatever you're doing. It's a tool watch.
I've already made my choice.
I need to think about this one for a second.
It's very clear.
This is a tough one, you know.
But
You too, Belly.
I didn't expect that.
Seriously?
Yes. For me, the Speedmaster was so important. It was actually produced for something completely different than it became famous for. If I would choose a watch today, I personally would prefer the Submariner. But we cannot deny the iconic status of the Speedmaster, and that is genuinely like one of the most, if not the most important, most iconic watch in the world. I didn't expect that.
I don't expect you two to be pricks. That's not what I signed up for. The fact that you two have agreed is even weirder.
For me, I would pick a Rolex over an Omega. But we're talking about the icon status. Omega, Speedmaster, you're going to the final. But who will join them? Semi-final number 2 sees Cartier facing off against Jaeger-LeCoultre. Matchup number 2, round number 2. Cartier Santos against an eaten up Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso. That's a close call.
I don't even know why I'm looking at this, by the way. It's a piece of paper. And I'm trying to compare what is better, a piece of paper or a actual watch.
For 15 years, Mr. Jaeger, actually, LeCoultre made watches for Mr. Jaeger, and Mr. Jaeger had the license of Cartier.
And Jaeger were making movements for Patek, but
Yeah, that's a later
Patek
stage.
did the Reverso first.
Why do I not know that?
In the Patek Museum, they have examples of Patek doing that flip style watch. Jaeger did it after, and then Jaeger kind of really ran with it, and Patek were kind of thought it was a little
Well, that
bit
kind of
gimmicky.
changes the dynamic, doesn't it? Is that true?
Yes, sir.
Why did I not know that?
Because you don't know anything about watches.
You are like someone in my comment section. Thanks for that.
You're struggling a bit with this one.
No, because they're two, for me personally, they're two watches that I personally wouldn't wear. They're not for me, so I'm trying to, I don't know.
I need to figure out that fact of the Reverso. You're maybe trying to fraud this entire video.
Gavin's Patek certified.
I know.
I know.
But then
What an arrogant
he
thing
did
to
write
say.
JLC earlier when he manufactured one, so I don't really know which way to go. Do you know what I mean?
Are we agreeing for once?
Yeah.
Oh, how is that possible?
There was a wee delayed second there where I thought you wrote something different. I thought you wrote Santa. I was like, what?
I would have wanted to write Reverso, but he changed my mind the last minute. Santos is moving to the final. So the Omega Speedmaster and the Cartier Santos both secured their spot in the final. But now it's time for arguably our toughest matchup yet. This is gonna cause fights here. Final matchup in round 2, the semi-finals, is of course the Patek Philippe Nautilus against the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. Battle of the Gentas. This is going to be an interesting one because I'm pretty sure where your head's at.
I don't know how you know where my head's at, because I don't know where my head's at. This is the toughest.
This is the toughest yet. And I thought the Speedmaster against the Submariner was tough.
The age-old question in the industry, Royal Oak or Nautilus. Either one of these is like pretty much everybody's grade.
Both are now high pieces, but one changed it.
The two brands are probably the two most iconic brands in watchmaking. Agreed?
I nearly agree.
And these are the two most iconic lines of watches within those brands.
Yes.
By far and away, it's the hardest decision.
It's definitely not an easy decision, but easy enough for me that I've already done it. Is this unanimous or not?
Nope.
See?
How can you even do that?
What are you two plonkers doing?
The Royal Oak is going through to the final round. Omega versus Cartier versus Audemars Piguet. What a game we have on our hands. One of these watches is going to be voted the most iconic watch of all time. We have the Cartier Santos, we have the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, and we have the Omega Speedmaster. Forget about values. There's proper importance, a proper iconic status on the table. I know who's going to win for me any day of the week. It's not even a question.
It's a no-brainer at this point, and it shouldn't have been, but you know, you guys have messed this up. But anyway.
Why? What?
Yeah, like it kind of feels like this motherfucker sneaked into the club. Even he's going, what the f*** am I doing here?
Personally for me, right, we need to look at the OG Speedmaster in general, right? It completely changed the industry forever. Not the best looking watch. I think it is a really cool watch and it should be in everyone's collection in any way, shape or form. I like the Speedmaster. If I look at the Santos, I still don't own a Santos. I would like to own a Santos. Cartier made watches masculine, but AP, like the Royal Oak, 1972, Gerald Genta, one of the most in-demand watches. It wasn't a hype watch until the last 10 years. It was a very important watch. It put the foundation in for integrated bracelet sports watches. All three could be a winner here, to be honest. All three.
Definitely not.
There's only one winner. It's a clear winner.
Look, the history, like I give a lot of respect to the Speedy. The Speedy has created a community of watch lovers and followers, and it's been able to stand the test of time for 60 years. Like that in itself is a testament to how good the quality, the following and the demand has been for that watch. When you're working in the watch industry, people love the stories, and there is not a lot of stories as probably well told and as well known as the moon landing and the race to be that watch, to be part of the NASA journey. The current generation or younger generation probably don't know how historic that was at the time. We take technology for granted and engineering for granted these days. What that took to do that 60 years ago is amazing, and to be able to withstand the elements and be part of that journey to time and be part of that process is amazing. I don't even want to talk about this because this is like this is in the wrong tray. This should be over there somewhere. Like it's sneaked on the back door.
I disagree completely.
When I think about what is the most iconic, what is the best design, I think about how do I feel when I put a watch on. And there's only one watch here that I'm smiling ear to ear when you put this on, and that's...
Three watches on the table, one shouldn't be there, so it's a two-horse race.
I just wrote something down and I'm changing it. And it's just because of something that you said.
Oh God.
And the winner of most iconic watch. See if we have a matchup. And I'm very curious what it's going to be.
What if we've all got a single watch each?
Yeah, then we're f***ed. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, get away! Honestly, I'm done. You boys are f***ing about me.
And you know why? And you said it. There's no story told better than the Speedmaster story. I had Cartier written, but then all of a sudden I was like, that fucker is right. Because nobody knows the real story of Alberto Santos Dumont. Nobody is really talking, nobody talks about that. And then you said there is no story in the industry told as good as the Speedmaster story. And you're right. The most iconic watch is the Omega Speedmaster.